Hello there. Long time no screaming abusive people. This is an overview and a review of the Liverpool ComicCon that's just happened, as you can see by my tired and well-worn face. So this is literally the day after it's ended. So I'll be honest at the front, I didn't do a lot of guests. I think I did three. I think it was three, yeah. So I don't think my experience will be everyone else's experience, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss some stuff that has come up, obviously online and things like that. So what we'll do is I will explain mine and then show you kind of what I got, because I can't, so what we'll do is we'll start with the Saturday. Now, I was only going for one person Saturday. So I couldn't get an early entrance ticket. So I got a 12:30 one. So I was going later on in the day. Now the thing about the new one is obviously they've expanded out. Apparently last year was just the convention centre where it's normally held, and the kind of the middle bit of the M&S Bank Arena, like the convention centre bit of the arena. And this year they expanded out into the actual arena itself, which was quite an interesting move, because I think one of the things most people tend to say about cons, especially where they're held, is it isn't really places to go sit. So obviously an arena has a lot of seats in it, so there will be places for people to go sit, which again I considered a good idea. In that arena, they basically had wrestling, a lot of the prop shoots. So they had like the X-Wing, they had like a Simpsons, Jeremy Kyle set. I thought that was strange, but that was just me. There was a stage, so there was a puppet theatre. You can hear Sheldon in the background. Bands, stuff like that. So that was just interesting. I mean, the funny thing was, the puppet theatre guys, I think on the Saturday when I was walking around, they were doing Back to the Future. And some of the stuff was actually quite funny. I wish I'd watched them now. The one line that stuck in my head was, Doc Brown going, "Oh well, it is powered by plutonium, but it does pollute slightly less than a Volkswagen," which I thought was quite funny. But there was a lot of stuff there. There was like a table selling there's like stuff from previous shows. There was like a couple of Star Wars guests who, I will be honest, I felt a bit sorry for, because they were literally directly across from the wrestling arena. And anyone who's ever seen like a live wrestling thing knows that the impacts are quite loud. So I don't know how those guys dealt with that. Whether they did or they didn't, I couldn't say. So that was interesting, because it was like, so this is like a dedicated space for that type of stuff. So if you just want to get away from the con stuff, you can come here and sit with Ewoks, or get in a Barbie box or whatever. So that was an interesting idea, I thought. So because and I think I will discuss this now, if a guest had sold out, so like Craig Charles did on Saturday, because Craig Charles was like the holy grail of Red Dwarf fans, because he was a hard man to track down. He would cancel constantly, and I'll be honest, after he cancelled, I think it was a Liverpool, it was actually one of the MCMs he cancelled really last minute, in the early days before Monopoly took this over. And he did Stoke-on-Trent. He was going to be there with Doug Naylor and a couple of other Red Dwarf guys, and he cancelled again last minute. So to be honest, I had given up all hope of ever getting it, because he was the only one I needed under print you will be seeing later. So he had sold out, because to be brutally frank, there were a lot of Red Dwarf fans who needed him to complete stuff. So he completely sold out. And so the way Monopoly had did this, this year, was what you would do is you would pick a time slot, which I will be honest sounded like a good idea. I can go here for their queue, get the autograph. It would give you more time to go do other things, because that was what I did on Saturday. So I was like, right, I don't need to go there till 4:45. So I did 1 and a bit talks, we'll say. So there was a Red Dwarf one, so I was thinking, well, screw that, I'm going to go to that. So I went to that.
My name is Che, I'm the host for this panel. You've all come for Red Dwarf, haven't you?
Yes!
No, one person said no, fantastic. Well, no. So, we're not going to mess about anymore. Shall we get them all on stage?
Yes!
Would you like to meet the cast of Red Dwarf?
Yes!
Oh, please, welcome to the stage, the stars of Red Dwarf, Chris Barry, Robert Away, Craig Charles, and
That was pretty good. You can, because this is something that was interesting to me as well, was there were people literally had like video cameras on their armrests recording the talks, you know, and in like Showmasters, and I really can't remember in Wales really if you were allowed to do that. I don't know if Monopoly like, yeah, you know, because technically it's free advertising, I suppose, because I think Monopoly tell them they're putting them up, so they kind of know. I think that could be why. But there are videos of that talk, which was fucking hilarious. I am going to be fairly honest. It's pretty goddamn good. And it was pretty funny. So I was like, okay. So then I did a little wander. I wanted to see how it was kind of organised. I wanted to check. So there were 3 buildings. There was a blue one, a red one, and a blue one, a red one, and I think a green one. I might be getting that wrong. You may be seeing pictures of the layout as I'm talking here. But it was arena, convention centre, and then the ECL, which is what it was referred to as the convention centre, where it's always been, basically. And I will say this, one of the issues with that layout was obviously because there's 2 completely separate buildings. If you wanted to go from the convention centre back into the other 2, you had to literally walk out the side of the con of that building and walk all the way. And sometimes the entrances were continually being changed. So you would either walk in one bit or another bit. It'd get you straight back in, but it would be like, I think it was the 2nd floor of the convention centre bit. The C, it was called the CC, I think. I can't really remember. But you were in there. So in that building, there was like a couple of traders, and that was where there was a back wall with the guests and a side bit like Genshin Impact and the Baldur's Gate 3 guys. And then there were the 2 photo areas. I think it was 2, there may have been 3 in that building. And they had ostensibly 2 queues, because obviously they run a Diamond Pass system, which is different from the way Showmasters do it. So Showmasters, a Diamond Pass is a guarantee for an autograph or photograph from a certain guest. Their Diamond Passes were like priority queuing, which I believe did cause some issues, which I will get to later. So, did the well, I will say this, the Jay and Silent Bob talk, but while I was there, it was the Jay talk, because...
Don't look it. Are you having a good time? Come on.
Yes!
Man, I'm not even supposed to be here today. That's you. You're that guy. We got a lot of people in here. I'm going to bring someone on. I think you all want to see them. Yeah. We're going to have a laugh. You got your questions ready? There's microphones 1, 2, 3, and 4. And yeah, get up to the microphone if you want to ask some questions, but without further ado, please welcome to the stage Mr. Jason Mewes!
Yeah!
Hello, hello!
Look at that. I always love a big screen behind me or next to me or something like that. Thank you guys for being here. This has been awesome. We're gonna start off. I usually, I was telling him, sorry. Usually, I just open up for Q&A and such like that. But I told him he could start the question if he had any. I didn't know if he had some
generously let me ask some questions. That's okay.
I'm hoping it'd be great, because again, usually, you know, you might ask something different or have something planned that someone else might not. So look at that Chronic right there. Let's go.
Chronic, have you got a question?
No, I just was saying the Chronic, the outfit is cool, but they might have a question. But you have one, or?
Kevin Smith was running late, which I think generally people who know him, I think can guess why. But when I get to my interaction with him, you know, it'll be fairly obvious, I think. So he was running late. So it was just Jason Mewes on the stage, talking and kind of being himself. Yeah, I've actually took quite a few pictures of it. You may be seeing some here, and you know, he was himself. So I left that talk, I think, at 5 o'clock, and this is where we get to what I will now call the issues. So Craig Charles had completely sold out. So obviously, people were allotted time slots to go meet him. But again, I am going to say this is allegedly, because I didn't see this on the day. But apparently what was happening was the staff at the Red Dwarf tables were selling, people could come up and buy autographs of Craig Charles. Now remember, he's already sold out. So the logic that made me think was, well, why are you selling more tickets for him? I mean, obviously we can say why, but that then compounded issues, and then apparently the time slots weren't, in the Red Dwarf area anyway, weren't really being enforced. So people were just turning up, they had a 5 o'clock ticket, and they were going in, and you know, it just butterfly affected. It got worse and worse and worse. So when I got to Craig Charles's queue at like 5 o'clock, and I remember the show closed in an hour, they had what we were calling the wiggly things, you know, the snake-like stuff that you get in most cons now or post offices. And his queue went from his desk all the way through the wiggly bit, and it snaked out. And I joined the back of the queue by a TARDIS, which was quite a while away. So in that bit of the queue, there was a bit of a discussion, because we couldn't understand, for an example, why was it so bloody long, you know. And I will say this, so, you know, we weren't really moving. I think, you know, he was at a photo shoot. I think it was, again, some of that scheduling seemed to be a bit weird, but so he came back, and then obviously the queue started to move, but it wasn't moving very quickly. Let's see. I think one of the interesting things about cons now, I will say, because again, this is our first biggish one after me and the wife together, because she came on the Sunday, is that, you know, back in the day, God, I sound old, it was a lot of guests would try to keep the interaction as brief as possible. Hi, how you doing? Maybe a 40-50 second brief chat, and then, you know, get on your way type of thing. And from what I can see, I don't think a lot of guests were doing that. I think they were like, oh, you know, I mean, Craig Charles, you know, I guarantee you, because I said to him, you know, it takes me a while to get this, you know. He's like, yeah, I've done a lot. So the problem was, this queue was massive, and we had an hour. And so us people at the back of this, near the back of this queue at this point, were like, oh shit, you know, he's, you know, this might not happen, you know. And so that kind of made a mockery of the time slot system, because that was what this system was set up to prevent. But I've also heard and been spoken to by people, because apparently now, because of like the Wales ComicCon stuff, I now get messages sent to me, and kind of like, oh yeah, just to let you know, this happened, you know. So Andy Serkis's queue was apparently on the Saturday an incandescent disaster. There were people in the queues waiting for 4.5 hours to get his autograph. So if anyone from Monopoly is watching this video, I think the time slot thing was a good idea. I can understand why it might have sounded logical to you. But if you're doing that and a guest sells out, no more. Sell no more. I think that's the thing here. I mean, obviously, you know, with those systems, they've worked out how many people he can see in a day. So the logic to me of, oh, he's sold out, but other people can just wander up and buy tickets, negates that logic, you know. So I would say, dudes, time slot system, if you're sticking with this, you need to stick with it and sell no more tickets, because if someone has sold out, they've sold out. That's it. Other people who haven't sold out, yeah, I can see the logic of it. And the other thing was kind of as well, I didn't see it at Craig Charles, but there were reports of there were like 3 queues on some people. So there was like the priority pass, the prepay, and the normal pay. And then it was difficult for staff to kind of control that, because logically what you would do is you would empty the priority, or let's say 10 priority through, then you'd do 10 prepay, and then maybe some of the people who are paying, because they're obviously going to slow stuff down because they've got to pay for their shit. But again, a couple of people, and one lady actually did quite a decent post on one of the Comic-Con groups about why is there 3? Shouldn't there technically only be a priority queue and then it's just queue? Because then that stops the confusion. You know, or like one guy did it, Kevin Smith, because it was near the end of the day, he was just letting people who had paid tickets in, and then the people who were paying had to wait. He was like, no, you stay there, you ain't coming in here. That seemed a better way of doing it. So when the prepay queue got to say about a third, he was like, right, you guys can now go in, because the people who paid for tickets got their stuff. So that to me worked well. But yeah, so Andy Serkis and Craig Charles. So we'll get back to Craig Charles. So it got to about 5:30 and it wasn't looking good, if you know what I mean. It was like shit, because this print I have in this tube here, I got the other 3. So I got Barry Llewellyn and Danny John Jules in 2015, which was actually, I think, one of the first MCM Liverpools before they, you know, ran away screaming into the night and backed off, and then now when he really do Liverpool. It's not Liverpool, London. So I've been waiting 9 years. It was 9 years, I think we said, 9 years, to try and get his bastard autograph. And I was just like, this fucking thing's cursed. You know, it's just never going to happen. So this guy came out, and he was Craig Charles's agent. He was a big tall guy with white hair and glasses. He was actually quite a nice guy, and he was literally going down the queue, and what he was basically saying was this: hi, I'm really sorry, he wasn't saying it was Monopoly's fault. He said, I only can deal with what I've got in front of me. So he was like, okay, Craig has to leave at 7 because he was doing the after party, which, by the way, was one of the reasons everyone turned up to get him, because they knew he wasn't going to cancel because he was doing the after party. And he's like, he's staying till 7. He's going to try and get through as many of you as he can. But I'm not making any promises. And I had a discussion with him the day after about this, which I'll get to later. And he went, you know, we're going to try our best. We're going to get to you. But when he got to us, and he told me this was partially a deliberate act, he's like, I don't know you guys here if he can get to you. So it was like, okay, we'll stay. And so, you know, it motored, and we got there, and I got to him at 6:30. So, and another thing I heard is Andy Serkis also stayed until everyone in his queue got done. Now, I'm going to say to those guys, well done, thank you for doing that, because, you know, everyone got what they paid for. But should they have to do that? I mean, I'm not saying they didn't have to. It was just that people were like, yeah, I need to get this done. But is that their responsibility? Because what should really happen is, if the con is run ostensibly very well, they should be getting through their last people, 5:22, so they can get the shit up and leave. You know, but these guys had to stay longer than they intended to deal with an issue that they might not have caused, which I'm conflicted with, because I'm glad I got the autograph, and I will now show you it here. There we fucking go, all 4 of them. And I did say to him, you know, hi, you know, took me 9 years and stuff like that. And he was going, yeah, I have heard that a lot today. But he was a genuinely nice guy. He was getting the football results fed to him. Well, we were talking, there was a guy who came up, you know, Man City are winning, and he's like, oh, season's fucked, you know. So, but yeah, he was genuinely a nice guy. But it was the fact that I had a time slot for 1:15, but didn't actually get it till 6:30, which is like an hour and 15 minutes later. So that system might need revision. That's all I'm going to say there. So we'll get to Sunday now, because that was basically, I did 2 talks and Craig Charles. So Sunday was interesting for us in a bit of a different way. It's normally me and my wife. So, you know, as people who have seen these videos know, when we go together. But this time was different because, as you know, John Cleese announced, I am, as you can see like here where the Monty Python stuff is a big Python fan. I've met John Cleese in the past, but a friend of mine loves Monty Python and had never been to a con before. And we were like, he's got to meet John Cleese. Even if it's just for the photo, he's got to meet John Cleese. So he came with us, which was the first time I've been with someone who's never done it before. It was quite a strange experience, and it will interject in as we go along. So that day, I had John Cleese and Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes, 3 people. So not really a massive amount of stuff to do, really, in a con. Generally, if like there was a diamond pass for them or whatever, you'd be like, right, okay, I can get that knocked out in a couple of hours. And sadly that didn't happen. So we get in, doors were open early, which I thought was actually a good thing, because we thought we'd turn up on the Sunday and there'd be a big long queue, which apparently there was on Saturday, but I didn't see that because obviously didn't get there till 12:30. So the doors are open, you could literally walk in, wander around, and obviously there's no guests, but there's those other stuff. So of my first shoot of the day was John Cleese, and my wife's was the only actual person she was getting a photo shoot, and then also from which was Sean Astin. Hasn't done Lord of the Rings, likes the Goonies. She didn't actually do the 2 women. I've never understood why, but women. So we went to those. We went to those zones. We kind of wandered around for a bit. My wife did kind of have a flip and flap and try to go get Charisma Carpenter's auto, but she turned up late. So she was like, "Screw it, I'll go, Sean Astin." So as you may be seeing, we're in the queues, and the thing was in that area there was like 3. I think there was 3. I think it was A, B, and C. I think. So we were literally queuing right next to each other. You could literally. So there's a picture of me and my friend taking a selfie, and you can literally see my wife in the background of it. And obviously he is astonishingly nervous because, again, meeting John Cleese. So I was trying to explain to him, you know, this is going to be a fairly brief interaction. Don't expect, you know, he's gonna stroke your head, give you a kiss, and send you off on your way. It's an in, click, out situation normally. So he's very excited, and we actually, I'll be honest, me and the wife were having bets whether he was going to cry or not in either interaction. So we get down the queue, and one of the things I've always said to people, if you've never done a con before, or if you've never experienced it, is you're at the back of the queue, you're like, okay, I'm fine, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna say the coolest thing in the world ever, and I will make him remember me because I am special. And as you're going down the queue, and the closer you get, your adrenaline kicks in, and your heart rate increases, and you begin to get more, God, what if I said the wrong thing? And by the time you get into the photo shoot, and you see they're there, that's it, you're ostensibly gone. You know, you're like, and he was like this. It was really weird to watch it in another person, because I was like, and he thought it was me. But so he's going down the queue, we get in, and there is John Cleese. Now, he was doing what I will politely refer to as a bit of a mini Meatloaf. You know, because he's not a young man anymore. He's 83, I believe. And my wife told me he once joked on This Morning recently that he's got a pacemaker, 2 artificial hips, and a sparkly new knee. So, you know, this man he's not a young chap anymore, and he's still doing this. So he was literally, we saw a couple of people as he's coming, and he's like, "Hi, how you doing?" And he was having like a 40-second, minute-long chat with you before the photo. And you could see the staff and the photographer like, you know. But they couldn't do anything because he's a bloody guest. He can frankly talk to us for a month if he wants, but no one else is getting a photo done. But, you know, he can kind of do what he wanted. So my friend is getting closer and closer, and you could see, oh my god, on his face. So he gets there, he goes to the shoot, and he has his interaction. I didn't hear what was said because I was just like, I was more concerned for his reaction than my own. I've met him before, yeah. So it was kind of funny to see, and apparently he went out and my wife was waiting for him, and he was literally quaking, you know. He got quite emotional about it. So I went into mine, and I was saying, that guy you've just met has been my friend since I was 14 years old, and we bonded over. We used to perform Monty Python sketches in school, which I joked to John Cleese is most probably the reason why we didn't see a woman naked till we were 18. But it's not exactly like you're going to go to a girl, hey, come back to my place and I'll seduce you with my rendition of the Dead Parrot sketch. So he thought that was fucking hilarious. So my brain broke again, as I think I famously said in my previous one. I'm just not smiling. So there it is. So there is I'm wearing my Monty Python live shirt. So that was kind of okay. So we were like, okay, photo's done. My wife got a Sean Astin one. I'm not showing that because she most probably would kill me if I did. But we came out and we were like, okay, I think the best thing to do now is I don't have anything now to the Giant Silent Bob Tube because the first ones of the day were 10 o'clock, which is the same time as John Cleese. Because the schedules that were on like the pages and everything said that John Cleese only had one shoot. So we were like, right, get there, get it done, because there's no others. Because we honestly assumed that's it, because he's not a young man, he might not want to go back and do another one. So we were like, okay, what we'll do is you queue for Sean Astin, we'll queue for John Cleese, and see if we can get it knocked out before he goes from lunch at 1 o'clock. So that gave us hour and 45 minutes, let's say. I think it was about that, hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, which, again, you'd feel you could knock out. Because, you got a prepaid ticket, so you're thinking, I'm not, there was no time slots for John Cleese, because weirdly enough, he didn't sell out, So it was a turn up and do your shit. So again, the people buying ticket stuff was effectively caused an issue, because there were staff coming down the queues, like, hi, how you doing, prepay, and people were saying, yes. But the thing was, they weren't checking. They weren't actually saying, oh, can I see your ticket then? And so there were people in the queue who were like, oh yeah, but they weren't, because they could see they were holding money. It was like, okay. So the Diamond Pass thing, or the prepays were in with the paid people were in. So we didn't move quickly, because again, he was doing, I said a mini meatloaf. Q wasn't moving massively quickly, but it was moving. And then we noticed on his schedule, because one of the things they did I actually thought was a decent idea, was they had, at the end of where the queues were, was a little like stick-on thing like you do at Showmasters when they're doing the VQ stuff. And it had here where they would be throughout the day. So we were kind of looking, and we saw that he was finishing at 1 to go to another shoot, which we didn't know about. Then he was on lunch for, I think it was an hour, so he wasn't back till 2:30. So I was like, well, okay, if I can get this, we can go do Kevin Smith, I can get his photo shoot done, and then I can meet them both, job done, we can leave. And we queued for an hour and a half. My wife barely moved, I will point out. She was literally, this queue was huge. It snaked about halfway down the side of the arena. It was massive. And again, there were time slots. So your logic brain thinks, if it's time slotted, why is it so fucking massive? It makes no sense. It makes no logical sense at all as to why it was that big. So, ostensibly what happened was Sean Astin was going to do, because there was a series of shoots with him, because he was doing the group shoot, his own shoot, and what they called the Mordor one, which was him, Elijah Wood, Andy Serkis. So he will be away, I think they said till 2. So he was going to be gone for the best part of 2 hours of the day, which you're like, oh, okay, this is nice. So my wife, because they gave out this little ticket and they were like, come back at 2, because you were here first, we'll stick you in the priority queue, you will get it done. Which I was like, that's nice of them, but still, why is this queue so big? Please explain to me if there's time slots for these guys, why queue so big, So long story short, we got pretty close to the front, and they were like, nah, he's got to go, sorry. So they gave us like little raffle tickets. I think I was 10, and my friend who was with me was 13. We were actually, I'd spotted a guy with the Beast of Caer Banog, the killer rabbit, which we took a couple of pictures. I'll put mine up, I don't know what so we were like, fuck, what do we do now? So what we decided to do was, my wife was like, okay, I'll go get Charisma Carpenter's autograph, and I will then just go back and rejoin Sean Astin's queue. I don't mind waiting, that long. And I was like, no. So we basically wandered about a bit, so I showed them the rest of the buildings, because we'd only been in the convention centre. So, and my wife wanted to see Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes' area just to see what it was like. She was just more curious than anything. So we potted around for a bit, and so my wife was like, sod it. She, about 20 past 1, she was like, sod it, I'll go back. I'm just going to join the queue and go back. I'm going to give it a go. And so me and my friend, we went on the prop areas, and I mean, because that's one of the things I wanted to do to him, is to kind of go, right, this stuff with the guests and everything is part of it, but this is other stuff that the con is. So we went into the arena and I just took a load of pictures of him in varying prop shoots, and we did Bumblebee, the bisexual transformer. And the puppet show had just done Jaws. So they were like, oh, this is our last show for the day. Because it was like, I think their show finished at like 1:30 or something. So, oh, this is our last show for the day. Thank you, Liverpool. But if you want to come to the stage and have a photograph with the puppets and the shark, feel absolutely free. And in our rampaging over enthusiasm, I think we extensively jumped the fucking queue. Because we just walked up to them at the stage. Hi, we'll take pictures with it. And it's so again, you'll be seeing one in a minute. That's my one anyway. So we did Bumblebee, which is, we're both in, so he's going to get his face in this whether he wants it or not. But, so it was, again, watching someone else react to this stuff. Because he's like, he's of my age and we should be jaded and full of hatred for everything. But he was having a whale of a time. So he was like, okay, screw this. You got Kevin Smith, I'll go back and join the John Cleese queue. So he went, and then I went upstairs and I just sat down for a bit, waited for the Jay and Silent Bob duo shoot to happen. And then I was like, no, come with me. So what we did was, I was thinking, well, Jason Mewes' queue might not be that big, so we'll join. Because one of the things I don't think people realise is, if you've got an autograph ticket, it doesn't have to be just you there. So I was like, you couldn't afford this, and we didn't think of buying one for you because we're idiots. And so come with me, come meet Jason Mewes. Fuck it, come on. So we joined the queue for him, and it wasn't massive. And he was stood up and he was on a table. So because I've seen guests do that where they stand up. I don't know, it makes them feel a bit more animated or whatever. So we went down the queue, met him. He's like Kevin Smith, he's very happy to see you. He was bouncy, he was all over the shop, he was brilliant. And he high-fived my mate, which absolutely made his day. He was very happy with this. So he signed, I don't know if I've ever showed this in a video, this is my cinema poster from Mallrats from like a long time ago. Now the thing is, with the flipping of this, I don't know whether it'll look right, but so, there he is. Him and Kevin Smith don't do tiny fucking signatures on posters, may I point out. But yes, of course, he wrote Sneaky Boochies and stuff and that on it. So he was absolutely lovely. So we got to meet him. So I was like, right, he's done. So then off my friend goes to go get his John Cleese autograph. And then I just kind of sat and waited. So we're kind of hanging around because I think there was a Kevin Smith shoot first, then it was the duo, then it was Jason Mewes. So because that's kind of sometimes how they do it: one in, one goes, one stays. Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? So, but basically, I was with what I will term my people, because you could tell, because there was movies hats and bags with signed Kevin Smith Funko Pops and and Chronic and Bluntman Funkos and stuff. So he was like, okay, I'm in with my people. So there was a guy there, and he was like, oh, I've got this I made this speech bubble for it, which said 37. Now I took a picture of it because I was just, I can't consider myself a Kevin Smith fan anymore. So you again will be seeing that in a minute. And we were just all kind of gathered. And they were like, okay, diamond passes disable people for DSE. So they go in, they're in their little queue and they're like, prepaid for the game. So we all then go off. And we're in the queue and there's about 10 of us in a line, just having an absolute whale of a time. We were all joking and making some incredibly peculiar anal sex references, which again, I don't know if that's appropriate in this video, but hey, hi YouTube. And so they're just going down the queue having an absolute pissing blast. No. And so that was kind of amusing too. So we were snaking our way down, and then at one point before we actually stopped, our queue started moving. Kevin Smith comes up the thing, pulls the curtains, and goes, ah, and shuts the curtains again. Because he is, one of the things about him, he's just brilliant. So we're going down, and the photo shoot then starts. We were about halfway down, so we're getting closer again, having an absolute blast. Get to the gates, go in, and they're both there. And again, he's, hi, how you doing? He's 20, so again, having a little, not a massively long talk, but they were both like, how you doing? Fist bumps, hi, hugs. Kevin Smith is a hugger. I will tell you of that now. So I walk up, and I'm in my Monty Python Live silly Ministry of Silly Walks t-shirt, and he goes, nice shirt, and I'm like, So, have a little chat, he gives me a hug, fist bump from Jay, takes a picture, which I will now find for you. And again, my brain broke in. So there we go. And I said to him, because my wife has basically been, she got a cuddle from him in 2017 at LSCC. And she's always said, well, I want another one. So I was like, fuck it. So I said, hi, Kevin. Just to give you a heads up. We're coming to get your autograph later, and my wife wants a hug from you. And he went, Garen fucking T. So I was like, right, well, I've confirmed that will be happening for her. So went out, and I was like, right, cool, I'll go get my John Cleese autograph. So potted me way downstairs, and got to the queue, and weirdly enough, it wasn't that big. Because apparently my mate had got his, and he was like 13, and apparently when he got back, they were doing like batch numbers like LFCC do with your virtual queue tickets. Out 1 to 30, come this way. So we got, I got there and it wasn't massive. So I got to the front, and at this point he wasn't putting your name, which I wasn't asked with, because I've already got a to John from John Cleese from LFCC. So I was just like, I'll just get the signatures because I know they're from him and I know they're there. So I got 2. Not going to say any more about that, but I got 2. So first one, which I'll show the autographs and I'll tell you the story. So this, Monty Python's Contractual Obligation album. There is a story to this. We'll get to it later. And then this. I couldn't pick the other Ministry of Silly Walks one because my friend had picked the other one. So I didn't want to copy him. So there's the 2. So we get to the desk and my wife is with me taking pictures of the interaction because she was kind of like, I'll do it for both of them because, I know how big fans they are. And then as we were doing it, I was telling him that me and my friend, when we were ostensibly stupid and young, would again perform Monty Python sketches. And how we would do that is, what I would do is I would listen to these albums over and over and over again and manually write them down, because there was no Monty Python scripts stuff to access, so it was all done manually, so I had to handwrite all this stuff out. And I said to him, we would perform this stuff at a drop of a hat, and people would just sit with us and say a sketch name, or what was the sketch name we would call them. And we would just bang, and we'd go, we'd be off, we'd do it. And I said one of the people's favourite ones was, and it was actually called The Bookshop, but we called it Ethel the Aardvark Goes Quantity Surveying. And he burst out laughing, and he was like, Ethel the Aardvark, and he shook my hand and my wife's hand. And she was like, oh, and just to also let you know, this shit was actually part of our bloody wedding. And he was having a whale of time. He seemed to be enjoying himself at this one, I think. That was the thing, because a lot of people said at LFCC, because he'd been so massively overbooked, he was in a bit of a foul mood in the later day. He's trying his best, obviously, but, you know, in that day and on that, he just seemed to be having an absolute whale of a time. So we were like, right, cool, John Cleese done, Kevin Smith. Now, I will point out two things here. One, my wife is not a fan of Kevin Smith's work. She is a fan of Kevin Smith, the person. She fucking loves him. So we were like, right, okay. Now, originally we were thinking, because he was in like a little box and people were getting a bit grumpy about that, but what I think the reason he did that was it was like you were in there with him on your own. So he could, I think, therefore, do what he, no, I don't say do what he wanted, that sounds disgusting, perverted, but he could do what he had. His interaction was the interaction with just you and him. It kept it personal, you know what I mean? That was my theory. I don't know it, you know. So, so we were winding down the queue, and my wife had a bit of a pang because she was like, I want to go in there because he might not let three of us in. And it was like, no, fuck it. So we got a friend in as well. So there was three of us there. So we were like, it's a little box, we might not let three in, but we were seeing groups of like 4 or 5 people coming out. So we were going, oh, thank God for that, you know, cool. So we can snake our way up, and you know, got the auto. There were people prepaying, because that was I said before, there were people who were, because at the start of the Kevin Smith queue, where they were letting you in, the guys were like prepay, and people were going, yeah, and they'd walk in, get to the desk, and they'd fucking pay. And I don't think either one of two things. People didn't understand what the term prepay meant, or people were saying, oh, of course I am, and then just paid at the desk because there's bugger all they can do about it. It's one of two things. I'm not judging anyone. So, gets near the front, and we're seeing how he is, and he's behind the desk, and he's Kevin Smith. He's if you've never met him and you're a fan of him, for the love of God, do it, because he is beyond worth it. So we get in, and I've actually got it here, because it's an incredibly heavy book. So this is what I got signed. It weighs a stuffing ton. I was carrying it around in a backpack in a box all day. So we got in, I put the book on the table, and I said to him, oh, hi, by the way, just to let you know, I warned you previously, this is the wife. And he's like, oh, right, cuddle, I'll get to that in a minute. So we were having a chat, and my wife is a cardiac nurse. And as we all know, Kevin Smith had a very, well, I would say, infamous heart attack that changed his life. He lost weight, he became a vegan. So my wife and Kevin Smith are having what I would describe as an astoundingly technical discussion on heart attacks. In the middle of a convention, she's like, oh, yeah, you got stents in, and you know, and he's going, oh yeah, no, I had blockage, and they were going in through, the doctor's looking at my crotch, and it was a surreal situation to be in. But the fact that she was a cardiac nurse just seemed to really hit home to him. So he signed, and my mate was just like in complete shock, because he's like, there's fucking Kevin Smith, you know. So he was like, right, okay. So we had a chat with him for about all this heart attack stuff for about 5 minutes. And he got out from behind the desk and hugged my wife, and he was speaking something in her ear. I couldn't hear it. I was like, is he my wife? So I got a hug, she got a hug, quite a big one. And then my friend, who has the same birthday as Kevin Smith, told him. And he's like, birthday, brother! And he gave me a huge hug and said, Leo's for life. And that made his absolute bastard day. So we got outside. So I'll just show you his autograph on it, because he doesn't do small ones. There we go. I might go back, because there's a picture of Jane, Silent Bob and the foreword by Jason Mewes if he ever come back. So I was outside, so I was like, what did Kevin Smith say to you? And she was like, oh, he basically said, you know, all of us nurses in that thing are angels, and, you know, it's very, with no pun intended, I don't feel, you know, that stuff is very close to his heart. And he thanks me for it, and I was like, that's lovely, you know. So, to be honest, that was the end of our day, essentially. We were all completely exhausted, because... so, I will now give a little overview, my idea of whether it was a good con or not, and maybe some things we might need to change. So, let's start. Was it good? I had fun, but the queuing was far too long. The queues were far too big, and they seemed, and again, no offence to any staff, massively either not managed incredibly well, or at all. The time slot system seems like a good idea, but it needs to be implemented, and you need, for the love of God, if a guest sells out, no more tickets. Put signs at the end of the thing saying these dudes are sold out, there are no more available. If they knock through everything and there's a gap, maybe, but you should enforce that. I think that's what caused the issues. Because if you're selling tickets in advance for a guest, should they not be the priority? Should you not get them people through? Because if there's somebody, for an example, who paid for Craig Charles but didn't get Craig Charles, that's going to sour them on you. Let's be fucking honest here. That's going to be fairly... It's, you know, they're having to possibly try to get a refund or something, because, you know, that's not what you want. The way the buildings are fine. That's not the issue. I think the thing is because they're disconnected, one of the issues was, if you wanted to get out of the convention centre and to the other areas, you had to literally go out of the side of the convention centre and walk along and then walk back into the arena. But weirdly enough, if you left the talks, you could walk along a skywalk and get back into the other side. And I was sitting there going, why isn't that being used? Why isn't that like... Because the talks are in there for 40 years, why aren't you opening that bit up for a little while so people can just feed through? And then when there's a talk, close that access off while the talks are emptying. You know, that would solve a lot of issues, because that was people's main problem with this setup. The actual stuff they had there, and, you know, the wrestling was fine, the bands and everything seemed to go down fairly well. So the actual entertainment side of it was good. It's just that there are issues, but there are issues with every con. I think that's the thing I'm going to say. Because to be honest, it's a lot of individual moving parts. Because there's a lot of guests, there's a lot of people, and one tiny cock-up in one area can have a massive spread-on effect for everyone. There's another one of my favourite things actually was on Saturday, when one of the escalators broke and the people queuing up for the escalator somehow forgot how to walk. That was hilarious. I was like, okay, you know, just walk up it, you know, just because it stopped moving doesn't mean it's still not operational, you know. But yeah, I mean, we had, aside from the length of the queues, which I think is an issue that needs to be looked at, because I think the next one is for the love of fantasy. It was an okay one, I would say that. I haven't been back to one of these in years. It was, the guests made it, I would say. I think, because I didn't go anywhere near any of the Lord of the Rings guests, because that was a lot of money. That was a lot of money. You know, 435 quid for a photo shoot that lasts 10 seconds. You know, I mean, they don't come together very often. I can understand why the prices were what they were, but yeah, there was some stuff there. I don't know, because I don't know if anyone from Monopoly sees this, but I think what you guys need to do, if there's any, look on the group, see if there's feedback posts, because I think there's going to be a lot. Now, obviously, you can wind a lot of it down to some people just don't know how this shit works. They've turned up, they have an expectation of what it's going to be like, and it's not like that, you know, so they're grumpy. But you'll find people who've done it a lot and can see this is a problem, this needs sorting, and I'd listen to those people, you know, because generally, if people have come a lot, you know, they know how you operate. And I know there was an accusation of guests being oversold, but again, we have no idea if that's true. That's just an assumption that we have made. You know, the only way would be to ask Monopoly directly, unless they ain't going to tell us. So, yeah. So I think there are issues, as I think, because again, with like Wales, when they moved to Telford, there were issues with the first year doing what they did. So I think if they can iron this stuff out, and maybe have a look at the time slot system and make it actually enforceable. So if someone turns up at 4 o'clock and they've got a 5 o'clock ticket, they should be politely told to fuck off, you know. But yeah, so I think it was a good weekend. I'm basically physically broken because of all the queuing, but hopefully they can sort that out. So thank you very much, and I am doing a part 2 of Wales. It's not going to be more about Wales itself, because to be honest, I haven't really staff haven't communicated with me, but someone has explained to me why that might not happen. But I want to kind of look at the impact of Wales on everyone else, and maybe some positives from it, because there have been a couple. But that will be, I'm going to wait. That could be like this one. This is like maybe an hour long. If you've got to this far, you are a stronger person than I think you should be. But thanks very much for watching, and have a good day. Bye bye.
And Craig is always like, yeah, let's face it, we're Dad's army in space and we know it. And Dad is, all 6 of our nipples are tingling.